Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's just dive right in and completely demystify the kitchen. Because honestly, learning to cook is actually pretty easy, as long as you massively lower your expectations. We're going to toss out the pressure of becoming a master chef overnight. In this explainer, we're breaking down how you can actually survive and maybe even thrive in your kitchen without losing your mind or, accidentally setting your house on fire. Now, if you actually look up the definition of cooking, you get this incredibly formal, stiff explanation. Wikipedia literally calls it the science and craft of using heat to make food more palatable, digestible, nutritious, or safe. I mean, come on. It sounds like we're prepping to split the atom in a sterile lab somewhere, rather than just trying to scrape together some dinner on a Tuesday, right? But let's be real for a second. For most of us starting out, cooking really just means achieving something that is burnt to a crisp on the outside and highly questionable in the middle. You know the vibe. The classic, crispy on the outside, heart attack in the middle special. And honestly, that is perfectly fine. We are aiming for baseline survival and gradual improvement here, folks. You'll hear a lot of self-proclaimed experts tell you that you need to go to culinary school or buy massive stacks of cookbooks or take these ridiculously expensive masterclasses. And look, I completely agree. Those are absolutely fantastic, highly effective ways to completely empty your bank account and plummet into debt. Instead, let's talk about the watch and do method. It's totally free and it actually works in the real world. There are exactly 2 steps to this, and they're both mandatory. Step 1, watch people cook, but specifically, watch people who actually explain the why behind what they're doing. Step 2, physically get up, go into the kitchen, and make the food yourself using what you just soaked in. You can't skip step 2. If you just watch and never try, you become that one annoying friend who brags, "Oh, I can cook anything if I have the recipe." Which, let's be honest, is basically like saying you can make tomato soup as long as someone hands you the can and a can opener. On the flip side, if you just run into the kitchen and start freestyling without any plan, you're going to miss out on crucial safety tips. You end up skipping basic things, like sharpening your knife, which means suddenly you're applying like 75 pounds of blunt force just to slice a single onion. Watching others first teaches you essential survival skills. You learn the claw method for chopping so you keep all your fingers, you learn how to manage heat so you don't instantly scorch your pan, and you learn how to open metal cans without slicing your hand open. More importantly, observing others helps you pick up on the unspoken rules of the kitchen. You learn the fine line between an acceptable life hack and a complete culinary crime. For instance, it is completely unacceptable to serve burnt food. Unforgivable. But it is highly acceptable to serve charred food. See, it's literally all in the marketing. You'll also learn quickly that using a metal spatula on a non-stick pan is a federal offense, and trying to make a meal out of unseasoned chickpeas straight from the can is just a tragedy we want to avoid. To really nail this method, you have to fully descend into the online cooking rabbit holes. I'm talking about getting sucked into mesmerizing ASMR cooking videos or hyper-specific 20-minute deep dives on why you should season your cutting board instead of your steak. You'll find those perfectly lit, brilliantly edited videos with absolutely zero subtitles where you just immerse yourself in the vibes. And crucially, you absolutely need to watch videos of people hilariously messing up their recipes, just so you know exactly what disasters look like before you make them yourself. All right, so that's the theory. Now let's talk about kitchen gear and containers and what you actually need to buy. Let's lay down the most fundamental, unbreakable rule of kitchen gear right off the bat. Absolutely everything requires a container. Everything. Sometimes your containers will even need their own containers. Think about it deeply for a second. Your kitchen itself, it's really just one massive container. And its sole purpose is to hold smaller containers, which occasionally hold food, but let's be real, mostly just hold even more containers. It's like Russian nesting dolls, but with Tupperware. And ultimately, my friend, at the end of the day, you are just a container for the food. Okay, minor existential crises aside, let's look at the actual starter tools. First, grab a sharp knife, because a sharp knife is actually a safe knife, counterintuitive as that sounds. Next, you need a giant, heavy wooden cutting board. Throw in a box grater, a peeler, some tongs, a sturdy spatula, a whisk, a good pot, and one stainless steel pan, and you are golden. Notice what's missing? We aren't buying some absurd 100-piece unitasker gadget set here. Keep it simple. And you really do want that wooden cutting board to be massive. Why? Because honestly, once you hit your late 20s and you're just cooking for yourself after a long day, you realize that plates are entirely optional. You can absolutely just eat your fried eggs and avocados straight off the cutting board. It saves a dish, and we love efficiency. Moving right along, let's talk about ingredients for real life.
What are we actually putting inside all these containers?
Look, if you are currently a Hot Pocket convert, meaning you're trying to transition from frozen microwave meals to actual, real food, you need to start with the absolute basics. Stock up on butter, like a lot of it. Grab frozen and fresh vegetables, some kind of reliable protein, your favorite sauces, some dairy, and basic pantry staples like bread, potatoes, and pasta. But hey, don't let anyone dictate your fridge contents. If you look in your freezer and decide you just want popsicles for dinner, you do you. We're not judging. The beautiful thing is how easily you can adapt those basic core ingredients to fit your exact lifestyle or cultural background. For example, if you're vegan, easy, you just leave out the butter. If you're French, well, you basically just eat the butter by itself. If you're American, you might decide to leave out the seasoning entirely, and if you're channeling your inner Gordon Ramsay, you just straight up drink the extra virgin olive oil. The point is, make it your own. Now for the part that terrifies every beginner. Hacking the standard recipe.
Here is the secret to reading recipes. First, read the whole thing from start to finish before you turn on a single burner, just so there are no nasty surprises. Then, mentally separate the ingredients into two very distinct categories. Category 1, your required chemistry ingredients, things like baking powder or yeast. Those have to be measured perfectly so the dish actually works physically. Category 2, your optional flavor and texture ingredients, like garlic or spices. Those, you can just aggressively eyeball them. Do not let a recipe hold you back from adding flavor. Measure that garlic with your heart.
Which brings us to our final and honestly hardest ingredients to master: patience and energy management. A total classic beginner mistake is cranking the stove up to maximum heat just to make the food cook faster. Now, while this is technically true according to physics, it is also the absolute fastest way to add some unintended crunchy texture to your meal and potentially add some color to your entire house via a massive grease fire. Rule of thumb, anytime you are not actively looking directly at your stove, you should just assume the worst possible scenario is currently unfolding. Patience is vital here, guys. And please, please conserve your energy. Take a look at this timeline because it perfectly maps out the exact trap every single beginner falls into. On Monday, you play it safe. You make some simple rice and beans. You feel great about it. You think, wow, I can really cook. So naturally, you get wildly overconfident and overly ambitious on Tuesday and try to make an extravagant salmon crepe with caviar. It takes 4 hours. Your kitchen looks like a bomb went off. By Wednesday, you are completely burned out and you end up spending Wednesday through Saturday surviving strictly on instant oatmeal and boxed mac and cheese. Since you will inevitably be exhausted by Wednesday, you have to give yourself permission to lean on alternatives. It's okay. You can meal prep in massive batches on the days you actually have energy. You can absolutely buy instant microwavable food to bridge the gap during the week. Or you can lean heavily on the single greatest backup plan in all of culinary history: a massive bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios with milk. So what is the absolute most crucial point to take away from this entire explainer? When you've had a long day, you're totally drained, and someone asks you what you were making for dinner tonight, always remember this golden rule. Cereal is a complete sentence. Cooking doesn't always have to be perfect. Sometimes it just have to happen. So what wildly ambitious meal are you going to attempt this Tuesday before giving up entirely on Wednesday? Get out there, have fun, and happy cooking.